I wasn't planning on doing another video about Mike's Philippine journey so soon, but it seems he just can't stop lying or misrepresenting what people say, which is the only reason I did so many videos about his content when I was on YouTube. Personally, I'd rather deal with a troll once or twice and move on, but I respond to what I see, and Mike was posting as if his purpose in life was to serve as a bad example. This one goes back a while, but Mike talked about it again very recently. First, note what Mike says in this clip and see if you can recognize the two lies that are in it.
Because I'm not defaming her character, I'm going up against the topic that she's saying, that the Filipino people are what? Culturally and traditionally lie.
Those of you who watched my last video know that P never said any such thing about Filipino culture. Thus, Mike is lying about that again. But that's the second lie. You may have overlooked the first. That's the part where he says he's not defaming her character. He says similar things from time to time, like,
"You guys who know what I'm about is trying to educate, to talk about the issues, not the individual."
And then he makes personal attacks.
I'm going to say allegedly right now here, but I don't believe she's been paying BIR for her taxes.
Sounds darn personal to me, and definitely defaming her character rather than sticking to the issue he was also lying about in the same video. He does say allegedly, but that is just to provide him cover since he has nothing to back up his accusation. Also note his little body language at the end with the mic drop action, as if his literally made-up claim is some sort of great revelation. Did it fool you? He continues, acting like his claim is true with this.
I bet you with that context, she's probably right now catching up with it.
What context? It was just a made-up accusation defaming P. Does Mike have a reasonable basis for his claim? Nope, not unless you're a bigot, but let's look at it anyway.
There's a strong possibility. You want to know why?
Why?
Over 95% of people who are YouTubers are not registered with the BIR yet in the Philippines. So would there be a good 90% chance that she didn't register her yet with BIR to keep all the money so not to pay taxes?
This is Mike's ethical standard. Accuse an individual of dishonesty based on a group, which is bigotry. So, of course, Mike keeps right on promoting his tax lie.
Imagine all those fucking years when she should have been registered already. At least 2.5 years, right?
Yeah.
That would suck. That would sure suck. That would sure suck. There's a high potential.
Wow.
Majority of all the vloggers in the Philippines, especially in this niche, there's only one couple that lives in the Philippines that I know are registered with the BIR. That is in the Filipino foreigner niche.
Well, Mike is imagining things since he has no evidence against P. There's a history of such bigotry in the US where a black man would automatically be considered guilty of whatever some white person accused him of. In other words, treating the man as part of a group rather than as an individual. That's what prejudice does to people. The stuff about how many he knows who are registered is meaningless. To make my point clear, how many people do you know who properly send in their tax forms each year? Oh, you may assume they do. You may know many people who talk about paying their taxes. But how do you actually know they did? Even if they show a copy of their tax forms, how do you know they sent it in? Or that they didn't hide some income if they did send it in? See how easy it is to defame someone using Mike's tactics? No matter what is proven to be wrong, people like Mike just take their assumptions to the next level. This matters because of a pathetic, twisted argument Mike brought up recently on the same topic as he renewed his defamation efforts. On Aloe DeWinter's channel, Mike was challenged about his assumption. His responses are, as usual, pretty twisted.
All she did was show proof that she signed up for her BIR. That's like me saying, you know what, I have a social security number. Does that show that she paid taxes?
Remember Mike's original claim that she probably wasn't registered, a claim which was quickly debunked at the time. So Mike is doing exactly what I just described, ignoring the fact he was already proven wrong and changing the claim to be that she probably didn't pay. What if she showed her actual tax form? Do you really think that would matter to Mike? Of course not. He'd just say that isn't proof that she sent it in. Or if she shows the form and shows her personally handing it in at a BIR office, he can just say she probably didn't give the true amount of her income. This is why celebrities almost never respond to trolls. While P is a very small-time celebrity, the principle still applies. If they give proof for one thing, the trolls just keep wanting proof for more things. At any point, if you say you have provided enough, the trolls declare that is proof that you can't defend yourself from their last attack since you were willing to do so before. Here's a bit more.
In the Philippines, there's a good amount of people who makes money on money under the table. You can even say YouTube's the same exact way, that they are not going to pay their taxes. 87% of Filipinos that make money under the table do not pay taxes in the Philippines. And that's also something that the BIR states. So yes, there is a high potential, as I stated, that she wasn't paying it.
Comrade Mike would have fit in just fine with the communist show trials. It is so much easier to assume guilt and to put the burden of proof on the person accused rather than the person making the accusations. His use of allegedly doesn't justify making baseless accusations against an individual, and Mike consistently acts like it is almost certainly true, thus defaming someone without any proof at all. Here's another tactic. It is common for trolls to use different approaches to make you think they are being unbiased. For example, when I first see P mentioned on some discussion forums, it is common for someone who is attacking P to say something like, "She's kind of pretty, but," and then they start their attacks. This is saying something nice to make you think the rest of what they say is unbiased. But if you keep watching, over time they change to, "I used to think she was pretty, but she is just average." And later on it becomes below average, continuing to saying she is downright ugly, all from the same person. Another example is when someone starts out saying she does good videos and switches later to saying they are boring. In short, nasty people often start out trying to hide their nastiness in these ways, but since they are nasty, they eventually reveal their true colors. But let me give you an example from Mike showing how he changes what he says about P. Various times Mike will say something like, "I agree with 95% of what P says and only criticize her for 3%. Again, that's just to make you think he's being unbiased. Here's a sample where Mike is reacting to my defense of P.
You guys know that I only talk about 3% of her videos. I've always stated, has he put out anything that stated that, well, Michael did say he likes 95% of the video, and I think that's okay. He doesn't say that.
So, as you can see, he is objecting to me not including his comment that he likes 95% of her videos. Of course, I actually did address it multiple times. I did so by pointing out that agreeing 95% of the time doesn't justify lying about someone 3% of the time. But for right now, this is just about Mike changing his own position. This is what he said on Aloe DeWinter's live stream.
A majority of the shit that she shares with Filipinos, with Americans, with foreigners is bullshit.
See what I mean? I'm pretty sure majority means he's saying over 50% is wrong, while before he said he agreed with 95%. Of course, as I documented over and over in my last video, Mike's disagreements with P are based on twisting what she says, changing her context, or changing his own statements as I just showed. In case you are still in doubt about Mike, you might consider some other statements that make no sense if he agrees with her 95% of the time.
The Filipina P is a fucking hoe.
Hate to hear what Mike would say if he only agreed with someone 90% of the time. Okay, as long as I'm covering DeWinter's live stream, let me react to a bit more. Not a lot. The darn thing lasted almost 7 hours, and most of it was wasted time. Andy Omar was on the panel as well, and had this viewpoint I've seen from others concerning the question of listening to a woman giving relationship advice.
Why would you take advice from a woman? Right? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Well, let's see. Why should men listen to a woman? Maybe for the same reason women should listen to men. What the heck is wrong with getting the viewpoints from both sides? I'd say it is ludicrous to avoid doing so. I suspect a lot of the problem we have in Western society today is that so many people from both sexes don't pay attention to the other. Men will complain that women either don't understand or don't listen, but these men are guilty of the very same thing. Have you lost the ability to see things from the point of view of others? Sure seems some have. I expect to be addressing that basic topic in the future in more detail. Andy continues with his own misunderstandings.
Her style is good, but it's simpish. It's like teaching you how to be a good simp kind of way. Like, she has good advice. There's many ways to approach women. I get it. But you got to approach it in a way where you're not a freaking simp. You're not a freaking, she's making videos about how much do you give to the Filipina family and all that shit. Fuck no.
Sounds like someone who, assuming they aren't just believing lies told by others, are still looking at P's videos through biased filters, seeing what they want to see, because P has not advocated simpish behavior. And I note that most of the time when I see such accusations made, they don't give details. When they do, it is easy to show they are twisting what she really said. Same as when critics complain that P just makes it sound like all positive stuff that Western men want to hear. Yet she has many videos talking about the negatives you can find in the Philippines. People just don't listen or don't listen very well. I don't recall P ever saying anything that you should give to the family. I have heard objections from her to such obligations. Not too long ago, in a video where she pointed out that she told men not to give a girlfriend money, but she also knew some would do it anyway against her advice. So she went through the typical expenses a girl in the province would have, so at least those who chose to send money would have a better idea of actual expenses instead of possibly inflated claims. If I was a single guy looking for a Filipino wife and the one I found was supporting her parents, I would have no objection to helping out after we were married, especially if I was a man who wanted my wife to be a homemaker rather than keep her job. What kind of man removes what may be the sole support older parents may have and then not help out if he can? Every case is different, and P has pointed that out as well. But since so many people get by on $200 a month, I wouldn't even miss it. So if her job allows her to give her parents $200 a month and I want her to quit her job, I'd make up that lost income. But I'm not going to be supporting the whole extended family. I often get the feeling that a lot of men are just trying to avoid any sense of responsibility. I'll be covering more about this in the future too. Andy continues.
She is not really an information channel. Her channel shouldn't be taken that seriously and should be taken with a grain of salt. She is a very good entertainer, a very good presenter. I give her that 100%. When she talks about Philippine tourism and all that, she's probably one of the best bloggers out there. But what I have against her is her advice with men.
As described before, it just sounds like a guy who doesn't want men to listen to women on relationships at all. To me, it shows weakness. Then we get Andy essentially repeating the silly comments Myk has made about P wearing slutty outfits. Here's a quick summary. Myk claims P wears slutty outfits in her outros, and he particularly focuses on her slutty doctor's outfit, as Myk describes it. So just so you can see how crazy Myk is, here's the picture of the slutty doctor's outfit. Actually, she has a second one, so maybe that's the one Myk referred to. Let's check. Considering how often my last video showed Myk apparently having hearing problems with what P or Beauty actually said, I guess he has severe vision problems too. Or he just lies. There's also the supposed slutty cop outfit, and Myk was describing a very short shirt, badges covering the nipples, etc. But here's what P actually wore. Certainly P does wear outfits that are sexier, but even then, so what? Myk declared it's okay to do so for Halloween, but that's it. However, as with so much of what Myk declares, it's stupid, because another situation where it is perfectly okay is when doing a skit, which is what the outros are. You can go back to the 1980s and see skits on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show where a female is dressed in very sexy outfits, or even in prime time, it can be found on the Carol Burnett Show. Frankly, I think a lot of these big-mouthed men are intimidated by a successful woman and just say stupid things. Anyway, Andy pretty much promoted Myk's claims.
Like, she does dress like, with the skimpy maid and slutty maid. Like, even if you look at the costume shop, like go to Lazada and do a screen capture of her uniforms, and they'll say slutty maid, slutty cop, shit like that. that's how the names are of those uniforms.
First, it doesn't matter what the descriptions are. They're used for skits, and there's nothing wrong with that. Second, maybe Lizada describes them that way, but I couldn't find any such terms. I checked a little for slutty cop and slutty maid, and also searched through 64 pages that came up when I searched for slutty nurse. But the word slutty didn't show up in any of them. Is Andy just making that up? I'd like to also take a moment to address two things from Kuya John on that stream. He really doesn't like Myk, and considering how Myk had previously said insulting things about Myk's very young child, I don't blame him. However, more than once, John just resorted to talking over Myk nonstop, just chanting the same things over and over. Frankly, it sounded like a little kid, and I promise you, Myk doesn't mind that at all. It lets him act calm, so anyone who doesn't know the whole situation will side with Myk. One more thing which John did bring up to Myk. It had to do with something John must have heard about where Myk was crying on a video, and this leads us to the distraction tactic. There are some of us, including Myk, who knows exactly what people are referring to when they bring up the issue of his crying. But we need some background for those who don't know. A while back, another channel put up 3 videos Myk made to send to his Filipina girlfriend. Someone posted the link in a comment in my old YouTube channel, and after I checked out the link, I deleted that comment. Why? Because it was unbelievably embarrassing. Considering how Myk treats others, he deserves no consideration. Yet when I saw the video with him not just crying, but bawling his eyes out, I thought it was too embarrassing. But the other 2 videos had a lot of stuff in them that sure showed behavior by Myk that if other men did it, he would call them simps. Those are important because they contradicted the front Myk puts up, especially considering how he calls other men simps. But for me, the crying was too much. Sure, I could have gotten a huge amount of attention if I used those videos myself, but I didn't do that either. The most I'll do is talk about the content, which, considering how he talks about others, is fair game. When people brought up those videos in the past, Myk played them down, saying they just showed vulnerability and that was a good thing. He didn't want to talk about how embarrassing they were or other things they revealed. He simply was trying to distract people from the important stuff in those videos. Of course, if he thinks they are just showing vulnerability as a good thing, he can always post them himself. On Winter's live stream, we have more obvious distractions. Like I said, Myk knows exactly what crying video is being talked about, but listen to how he tries to make it where anyone unfamiliar with the actual videos think it is no big deal after Myk brings it up.
You said there's videos of you crying. What was that made you cry?
Oh, I cried about my mom. I cried about my dad. I cried about a girl. I've cried
And
about.
and you're just
Actually,
playing
I
it
have,
off like it's
I have a
fine?
really good one. I cried about. I think I was. I did have a thing about my dog.
He just lists a bunch of stuff, most of which people would not think anything about, such as maybe he cried about something bad happening to his parents, and just sticks the thing about the girl in there as if there is nothing special about it. It continues with this.
What Filipino hurt you in the past, Myk? You must have got really hurt from a Filipino to act like this all the time against your own people.
Oh, I've had my heart broken by a Filipina twice.
It makes it all sound quite ordinary, except the crying that people are talking about is all about the girlfriend, and not just crying, but bawling as if something terrible happened to her. But it was actually an issue of her being mad at him for his videos, and she wasn't going to be with him when he was supposed to meet up with his fans in the Philippines. I could quote things he says in the video and let you judge for yourselves, but it would be better if Myk either provided the videos himself, or, just maybe, Myk would do better to not throw stones at others. Let me throw in another example of Myk flat out lying about what someone said. Remember the detailed video a couple weeks ago about the silly claim that words are only 7% of communication? Remember that Myk promoted that claim, but never provided anything to support it other than to say, it's a study? Well, after I did more than one video on YouTube showing why he was wrong, Myk said this.
I mean, heck, Reality Check Files is even trying to say body language don't work. You know, all these things about communications don't work. Which is hilarious to me.
What's hilarious is I never said any such thing. Myk simply made it up. I made many references to body language, but I never said it doesn't work. I, in fact, said there was some value in it. Go back and watch my video a couple weeks ago on the subject. It is pretty much the same thing I said on YouTube that Myk is now lying about. As usual, Myk has to first change what I really said in order to fight back. Very strange since Myk whines about me maintaining context even while he just makes things up. Myk repeatedly gets caught doing these things, which is why he had to resort to censorship and I don't. I'm always willing to defend what I say. Myk is always willing to make stuff up and try to censor any effective opposition. In another example, Myk claimed I attacked his girlfriend, apparently a reference to the girlfriend Myk was crying about. What was missing was an actual example. But remember last week's video where Myk was trashing the wife of Paul, Old Dog New Tricks? He not only trashed her, but he was obviously enjoying doing so. Just as he criticized the face of the Filipino P's mother, who has a medical condition caused by the difficult birth of her youngest child. It is for these things and more that I merely pointed out each time that he had to resort to censorship. Thanks for watching, and don't let the trolls stop you from speaking out.